All right, here you go.
Go ahead.
Take it.
All right, welcome to the Search and Rescue 1 lecture. And as part of this lecture, we're going to be detailing some information on firefighter search and rescue and what's involved in that. My name is Lee Turner. I've been in the fire service for about 28 years, and as part of that, I've instructed numerous classes. I'm the fire chief of Jefferson City Fire Department, and as part of that, we're going to go through this class that I'm in, Fire Officer 1, or Fire and Fire Instructor 1. We're going to be detailing the search and rescue operations that we're looking at here. As we move through our PowerPoint, you can see that the instructor introduction I've kind of already done. The topic introduction today is search and rescue, or Rescue 1 as assigned. As part of being Rescue 1, we're going to talk basically about what search and rescue is, and then what you can expect out of a search size up, or search size up on the scene of an emergency or a scene of a structure fire. So that's kind of the topic introduction. The objectives is, for this class and this presentation, I want you guys to understand how a search is determined when we look at the occupancy profile of a building, and then the risk-benefit analysis of that building, and where we can most likely find some people that may be trapped or entrapped in a structure fire. The references, it's Jones and Bartlett, Skills of Firefighter, Essentials of Firefighter Skills, 3rd edition, and that's kind of what we're going through there. Now, as part of this class, can someone tell me what your opinion of what is coordinated, or what is coordinating a search and rescue? What would be an example you think that may be? Okay, as part of it would be part of it, getting it together with instant command. But what involves search and rescue? Everybody having an assignment, everybody doing what their assignment is, everybody knowing what their assignment is, everybody going where their assignment should be. But as part of that is, we have to know, well, what is search and rescue? Does anybody know what search is? By the fire service sets, what is search?
Searching for life.
Okay, searching for victims, searching for occupants that may not made it out of the building that's on fire. So we're searching for them, we're seeking them out, we're trying to do what with them? If we call it search and rescue, what are we trying to do as far as the rescue?
Get them out.
Okay, yeah, we want to get them out for sure. So if we talk about search is looking for those people that may be entrapped in the structure fire, whereas rescue is what? Yeah, removing them to a safer area. And this may be simply by guiding them out, if they're in a place of safe refuge and not involved in smoke, or this could also be the removal by what? By having to drag, carry, etc. out of the building. Now, as we go down through here and we look at that, we know that the fire has to be attacked in a coordinated fashion, but just as far as search and rescue, we know that it has to be coordinated also. It has to be controlled from the instant commander and the person in charge. So with that being said, it's like everybody has a play in the playbook. Everybody knows what their job is, they know what their job is to accomplish, so that's what we're attempting to do. So, with that being said, again, sometimes the fire may be to a point that it's too far for us to go, so that fire has to be attacked or controlled before we can make a good search and rescue effort. Now, when we look at some of these things, we're talking about search and rescue size up. Search and rescue size up is very important. It's very important due to the fact is that if we don't size up the scene, we really don't know what we've got. So, in order to accumulate information or data or intelligence on the scene, we need to do what? We need to look at the critical factors, and we need to develop a search and rescue plan based upon those critical factors. Now, we all know, we know what our risk-benefit analysis is, and as part of the risk-benefit analysis, we know what are we going to do. We're going to risk a lot to possibly save a savable life. Mm-hmm. We're going to risk a little bit more or a little bit less to save, property. Yeah, property. And then finally, we're not going to risk anything to save property and more or less civilians that's life is already left. So by using that general risk profile, we're going to be able to establish this search and rescue plan in order to do that, and more or less in order to commit critical resources to effect that rescue. Now, with that being said, the risk-benefit analysis, we have to consider, no matter what we do in the fire service, we always have to consider the risk versus benefits. The risk that we're going to willing to take compared with the benefits that we're going to possibly achieve from that. As part of that, we have to be aware that, once again, the risk profile analysis comes in there, but there are going to be lives and there are going to be property that we're not going to be able to save sometimes. So we have to be better prepared for that, and to make that, or to make it more safe. No scene we're ever going to go to is going to be safe. So therefore, we have to be ready to implement those methods and that training we've got to make it as safe as we can to do that attack. Now, when we go into, we're looking at the rescue, search and rescue size up, we want to look at several things by building that size up. The first one being occupancy factors. Now, when we talk about occupancy factors, what do you got, what are we talking about there? What do you think we're talking about?
What kind of building it is?
Okay, that's a big thing. Well, let's talk more. Okay, that's right. That's more of a building, but an occupancy is more what's going on in the building, okay? What's the characteristics of the people in that building? So when we talk about the characteristics of people in that building, we want to look at rescue occupants that are in the most danger first. Who do you think would be the ones that are in the most danger first when we talk about doing a search and rescue?
Children and elderly.
Children.
Okay, definitely children and elderly, okay? Let's look more at also though, children and elderly are definitely on the list because why? They may not be able to get out of the building and then they may not know to get out of the building. But let's talk about more like locations. Okay, when we talk about locations, are the people closest to the fire, do you think they would be the most indicative to get out first?
Yes.
Those people that are closest to the fire, maybe in the same room as the fire, okay, or on the same floor as the fire. What about the next one we talk about location? Will we go above those or will we go below those to affect the rescue next, the search and rescue next?
Probably above.
Yeah, because why? Fire
They
goes
may not know about
Fire
it.
goes up and out, right?
But they may also not know about it where the people could have told everybody on their way down.
That's correct, okay? So not only are we looking at the people in the immediate vicinity of the fire, but we're looking at the people above the fire. And then we're looking at people after that in the flow path of the fire, the direction the fire is going. Where's the fire going? It's going to take the path of least resistance, just like the smoke. It's going to create a flow path. It's going to go to the window. It's going to go down the hall and up the steps, up the stairwell. You know, just the other day we had a fire here in Jefferson City where it started in the basement. It rolled up, and you could see almost the path that it took up to the end effect up the stairs. So we want to look at, first of all, people in the immediate vicinity of the fire. The next area, those people on the same floor, those people above next, and then those people also where the fire is going, okay? And then finally, once we get that taken care of, then we're going to look at the top floor of the structure or above the structure, because eventually that's where all the smoke and heat's going to go. And then we'll look at below the fire at that point. And that's, fire doesn't travel down unless it's helped a lot of times, so that's what most likely be. Now, as far as occupancy, occupants of where they're going to be located at, if we're looking for children, we're looking for infirmed individuals, we're looking for sick individuals, we're looking for those for elderly people, where are we going to find those people?
Children are gonna hide.
Probably
Okay,
their
children
rooms.
could hide, okay, they may look under the bed, that's why we stress in search and rescue, search under the bed, closets, all right? Now, when we talk about where else people are gonna be located at, we wanna look about people, when we roll up on the scene, and we roll on that scene, what are we looking for? What are those signs and symptoms, those clues that that building, that house, that structure may be occupied?
Cars in the parking lot.
Okay, cars in the driveway, cars in the parking lot,
Lights on.
lights on, okay? Mail, what about mail? If you roll up on the scene, you've got a mailbox that's full and falling out of mail in there. Does that mean there's somebody there?
Probably not.
Not necessarily, or they may be like my house, you never check the mailbox. Okay, so just because you've got to take all these things and the total amount, okay, of all these signs and symptoms. If I roll up and there's righty toys and there's toys in the front yard, what do I want to think?
Kids.
There's kids there. There may be kids there, okay? Well, what about if I walk up to a house and there's an oxygen placard on there? What am I thinking there?
Elderly.
Elderly.
I'm thinking elderly. I'm also thinking people that may be homebound, and we're thinking hospital beds, like the people that can't affect their rescue themselves. Okay, so you've got to take all these things into the picture when you look at this type of things. These are called clues. So you're looking to see if these things are indicated of this. Okay, if you roll up on a church on Sunday morning and there's cars in the parking lot, do you think there's people there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you roll up on an office building during the daytime, during the week, you think people's there?
Yep.
Yes.
Sure there are. Okay. You roll up on a residence at night and you've got cars in the parking lot, lights inside, what do you think? There's probably people there. All right, so you've got to take those clues into account and make sure that you're meeting those expectations. Now, occupant information, how accurate is the information that we're going to be able to obtain from those people that are escaping or those people that are self-evacuating prior to we getting there? So, okay, if they work there every day, the information they may be able to provide you may be what, a building layout. They may be able to provide you, everybody's out of the building. Some factories, some schools, they can tell you that they can account for people pretty quickly, or they can account if people are missing. But for instance, if you go to a factory and they say, well, we've got everybody accounted for except 3 people, and somebody in their department says, well, John, Bill, and Josie, they didn't show up for work today. Okay, well, we've got those accounted for. So that's the type of information we can get from them. So what are we looking for the information from them? We're looking for, what, give me what I just told you. Layout of the building, what else?
Who's in and who's out?
Who's in, who's out? Occupancy, what's going on in the building, right? So we wanna make sure that we know that as well. Now, we all, like I said, with size and rank, floor plan, where do we get a floor plan? The people, when they evacuate, they bring you a floor plan?
No.
They can draw it for you on a piece of paper.
They could draw it real quick, but where's the fire department, where does our floor plan come from?
Pre-planned.
Okay, pre-planning of the structure, having that stuff immediately available to the responders on the scene. So, and there you go, it's laid out right there on the slide for you. Okay, so let's go over real quick what we talked about. So, what is the definition of what is search?
Looking.
Okay, and so what is rescue?
Rescue.
Okay,
Yeah,
rescue
get people
those people out. Now, rescue is further broke into, or search is further broke into two things that I didn't fill you in with, but search is broke into two things. There's a primary and a secondary. The primary is a rapid, quick search, maybe being done with the fire attack or during the fire attack. Secondary is a more thorough search that comes afterwards, okay? So what else did we learn? What is this called? What is that thing called that we do before we make entry into the structure to determine how safe or how unsafe it is?
Size up.
Okay, size up, but part of the size up is looking at something versus something.
Risk versus reward.
Risk versus reward, risk versus benefit, and we will risk our lives to do what?
Save
life.
Savable lives, right, and property. What will we not risk our lives to save?
Lost life.
Okay,
Loss
loss of
of
life and
property.
stuff like that, all right? With that being said, let me show you one of the simple ways, and we'll go over to the psychomotor portion of the exam, of the class here, and we're gonna talk about the removal of a victim should we find it in the structure. Okay, with that being said, the removal that we're gonna talk about today is, we've already kind of hit all these on the introduction, you know who I am. The topic introduction is the removal by a firefighter carrier that we're gonna demonstrate here in a second. The objective, of course, is to do it safely, or we don't further injure the victim, or we don't injure ourselves. With that being said, we're gonna look at the two-person extremity carry, and as part of the two-person extremity carry, it requires no special equipment except yourselves, all right? And basically two firefighters to carry the victim out. It can be performed in narrow or very tight spaces. You don't have to carry any special equipment in for it. And like I said, as long as the victim has good, sturdy extremities, i.e. they're not fractured, they're not severely burned, it's going to provide a way that you can remove that patient. So as we come up, now what's the first important thing I just said a minute ago in doing the two-person extremity carry? Safety to yourself, right? Same safety always, but what I'm talking about is when you start lifting victims and you start moving patients, your safety is paramount, because if you don't lift correctly and you bend over and you go to pick the person up and they hurt their back, you hurt your back, and now you're unable to lift them again, what good is that? Now instead of one patient being removed, we've got two patients and one person to carry them both out. So we want to use good lifting techniques. So the first thing we want to do is we want to help the victim to set up. C-spine precaution, probably not effective at this point where this is a firefighter structural fire search and rescue. It's not a fall, it's not a motor vehicle collision. It is a two-person lift out of a structure. All right, so with that being said, the first thing the first firefighter is going to do, or firefighter one, we'll call him, is going to kneel behind the victim, support the victim's upper torso with their knee, and then they're going to reach underneath their arms, and they're going to grasp the wrist. Instead of saying grasp the wrist, grasp a little above the wrist, okay? And what you're doing is you're lifting on your radius and ulna that runs right here, that are long bones, that are good in structure, and you're going to pick them up like that. The person in the rear is going to supply the most amount of the lift, all right, because he is lifting the torso and the upper body. And then at that point, what is the command that we're going to use to effect this rescue? Do we say ready, 1, 2, 3, ready, go?
Ready, go.
Okay, just like anything else, when we move patients, we're going to do what? We're going to use the ready, go cadence. Ready, go. And we're picking up at that point. So with that being said, that's the cadence we're going to use for the lifting of the patient. The second firefighter comes in, and notice one example here on the PowerPoint. Which direction is the second firefighter facing? Okay, he's facing the same way as the first firefighter. Okay, and why do you think he faces that way? So you see where you're walking, right? Now there's one thing else too with this extremity carry. You're looking at this, they're picking the patient up, okay? They've knelt down between the legs, they're picking the patient up, all right? The second firefighter, the first firefighter, the one that's from behind, gives the call, ready, go. and then the pick, they lift the patient. So they're not